ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ। ਟੋਰਾਂਟੋ ਤੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਹਾਂ ਜਸਲੀਨ ਕੌਰ। ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਯੂਥ ਸਾਇੰਸ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਸਾਲ ਫਾਲਿੰਗ ਵਾਲਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ 2020 ਦੀ ਸਾਇੰਸ ਕੈਟਾਗਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਥਰੂ ਅਵਾਰਡ ਲਈ ਫਾਈਨਲਿਸਟ ਚੁਣਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। ਜ਼ਿਕਰਯੋਗ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਫਾਲਿੰਗ ਵਾਲਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਹਰ ਸਾਲ ਬਰਲਿਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਯੋਜਿਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਐਨੂਅਲ ਵਰਲਡ ਫੋਰਮ ਹੈ ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਸਾਇੰਟਿਸਟ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣਾ ਰਿਸਰਚ ਵਰਕ ਸ਼ੋਕੇਸ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਮੌਕਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਵਰਲਡ ਲੀਡਰਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਗਲੋਬਲ ਚੈਲੰਜਸ ਵੀ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਮੌਕਾ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਸੇ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਯੂਥ ਸਾਇੰਸ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਐਗਜ਼ੀਕਿਊਟਿਵ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟਰ ਰੈਨੀ ਬਾਰਲੋ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਪਰ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਪੇਸ਼ ਹੈ ਇੱਕ ਖਾਸ ਰਿਪੋਰਟ। ਜਰਮਨੀ ਦੇ ਬਰਲਿਨ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਰ ਸਾਲ ਆਯੋਜਿਤ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਫਾਲਿੰਗ ਵਾਲਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ ਸਾਲ ਯੂਥ ਸਾਇੰਸ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਇੰਸ ਕੈਟਾਗਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਥਰੂ ਅਵਾਰਡ ਲਈ ਚੁਣਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਸਾਲ ਫਾਲਿੰਗ ਵਾਲਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਨਵੰਬਰ 4 ਤੋਂ ਨਵੰਬਰ 8 ਤੱਕ ਆਨਲਾਈਨ ਆਯੋਜਿਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ 9 ਨਵੰਬਰ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿਨਰ ਡਿਕਲੇਅਰ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾਣਗੇ। ਜ਼ਿਕਰਯੋਗ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬਰਲਿਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਯੋਜਿਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਫਾਲਿੰਗ ਵਾਲਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਇੱਕ ਐਨੂਅਲ ਵਰਲਡ ਫੋਰਮ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਸਾਇੰਟਿਸਟ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਸਰਚ ਵਰਕ ਸ਼ੋਕੇਸ ਕਰਨ ਅਤੇ ਵਰਲਡ ਲੀਡਰਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗਲੋਬਲ ਚੈਲੰਜਸ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਮੌਕਾ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਹੈ। ਜ਼ਿਕਰਯੋਗ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਯੂਥ ਸਾਇੰਸ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ 1962 ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ ਅਤੇ ਹਰ ਸਾਲ ਸਕੂਲ ਦੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਗਰੋਥ ਅਤੇ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟ ਲਈ ਯੂਥ ਸਾਇੰਸ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਸਾਇੰਸ, ਟੈਕਨੋਲੋਜੀ, ਇੰਜੀਨੀਅਰਿੰਗ ਐਂਡ ਮੈਥਮੈਟਿਕਸ ਫੇਅਰ ਆਯੋਜਿਤ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਯੂਥ ਸਾਇੰਸ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਇਸ ਸਾਲ 1 ਮਈ ਤੋਂ 26 ਜੂਨ ਤੱਕ ਸਟੈਮ ਫੇਅਰ ਆਯੋਜਿਤ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ। ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਪੈਂਡੈਮਿਕ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਇਹ ਫੇਅਰ ਆਨਲਾਈਨ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ 7ਵੀਂ ਜਮਾਤ ਤੋਂ 12ਵੀਂ ਜਮਾਤ ਤੱਕ ਦੇ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਨੇ 600 ਤੋਂ ਉੱਪਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟਸ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ 16,000 ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨਸ ਨੇ ਵੇਖਿਆ। Hello, Mr. Barlow. Thank you so much for joining PTC Punjabi once again.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
First of all, many congratulations to the team of Youth Science Canada. It's a big achievement. Tell us what this nomination means for Youth Science Canada and its vision.
Well, I think what it does is it confirms that the idea that we had back in the end of March to transform our usual physical events into an online event and to open it up to every grade 7 to 12 student across the country was the right thing to do. It certainly worked in terms of attracting 630 projects from across the country. But in terms of the Falling Walls Award, I think it just gives a really nice international recognition for what we've done here in Canada to enable Canadian youth to present their great ideas.
Absolutely. Before I go into more details, can you please quickly tell our viewers what is the motive of Youth Science Canada and what the Falling Walls Conference is all about?
Sure. So Youth Science Canada is a national charity that exists to fuel the curiosity of Canadian youth through STEM projects, and that's science, technology, engineering, and math. And so while many organizations work to get kids excited or interested in science and technology and STEM, we actually work to get kids doing STEM. And so we get them to do that through doing projects, which they can do at home, they can do it through school, they can do it through a club or another organization. And then typically, in a typical year, we invite those students to present their projects at regional science fairs across the country, over 100 in every province and territory. And then we select, those regions select about 500 students to participate in the national competition, which is called the Canada-wide Science Fair. And all of that was canceled this year, and so we took everything online. The Falling Walls competition is based around the Falling Walls conference, which takes place every year in Berlin, in Germany. And the focus there is on engaging the public in science and making science accessible to the public. And one of the categories that they have for their work is science engagement. And that's actually the section that we applied for. And out of that, I think they received applicants from about 70 countries around the world. And selected Youth Science Canada's online STEM fair as one of the finalists for this year's competition.
Talking about the STEM fair, we know that it happened first time virtually from May 1st to June 26th. We know that students from grade 7 to 12 were involved, but how many projects did you receive and how many visitors were there, and what was the selection process?
Well, we kept it very, very simple. The selection process we left wide open. So we basically opened the site to any grade 7 to 12 student who had completed a project and who wanted to enter it. We wanted to keep the barrier to entry really low. We ended up with over 630 projects, and from students in almost every province and territory, which was great. And then we did some very low-level competition or some low-level evaluation of those projects at the regional, national, and challenge-based level. And so we awarded some virtual ribbons, no cash prizes or trips or anything valuable like that, but we awarded some virtual ribbons to the top projects, and that went very well.
Okay, Mr. Barlow, once kids get selected and awarded, what's next? What other opportunities do they get, and how do you help them in transforming their science projects into a viable business?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There are kind of two approaches. Normally, through the Regional Science Fair and Canada-wide Science Fair program, we have prizes and awards, some of which include trips to represent the country at international competitions and that sort of thing. But of course, all of that's gone on hold because of COVID. So in terms of taking their project to the next level, we actually invited 30 students whose projects showed some commercial potential, and invited them to participate in the YSC York University STEM Entrepreneur Bootcamp, which took place last week. And actually 10 students and their projects participated along with 20 other students who joined their teams. And they spent most of a week learning what it takes to transform a great idea, a great project, into potentially a business and launch that commercially.
How do you guide new entrepreneurs for pitching in and securing funds for their new ventures?
Well, that's not something that we typically do. We tend to do that through the YSC York University Bootcamp, and during that week, the students are introduced to various concepts around what it takes to find an initial customer, what it takes to make your project or your product viable and attractive to potential consumers, and then they actually work every day. They re-pitch their project. So incorporating everything that they've learned. So by the end of the week, they have a pitch that's ready to go for introducing the project and the concept to potential funders and investors and so on. Although most of them aren't quite at that stage yet, given that they're still in high school.
All right, I have a few more questions, and we will continue this chat right here, but after a short break. We'll be back soon. Welcome back. After the break, we have in conversation with us the Executive Director of Youth Science Canada, Reni Barlow. Mr. Barlow, definitely we can see that COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in many changes, and this was the first time when Youth Science Canada's Science, Technology, Engineering and Mathematics Fair was held virtually for the first time. And no doubt this event was very successful, but what were the challenges you faced?
Well, I think the initial challenge was more technical because we'd never done this before. So we partnered with an organization based in Mississauga, engineering.com, and worked with them. They had already established a platform known as Project Board, and we worked with them to adapt their platform to the science project, the STEM project environment. And that was a bit of a scramble. fall, and we had to kind of reconfigure a variety of things and make all that work in just a little over a month. So that was the first challenge, and then the second challenge was to get the word out to students across the country. Normally, we have a really effective system where students participate in schools, and then those schools participate in regional science fairs, and then those regional science fairs send students to our national fair. But with schools out and not much of that kind of thing happening, the other challenge was really to get the word out. So we used our alumni and our network of teachers and our network of volunteers across the country, and it ended up being very successful, bringing 630 projects together.
Do you think it's beneficial enough to do the STEM fair virtually every year?
Yeah, good question. Even if physical fairs go ahead, we've decided that we're going to incorporate a virtual component, primarily because it opens the door for students with projects everywhere, regardless of what resources they have, where they live, what kind of access they have, so they can share their project with everyone across the country and indeed everyone around the world using that technology. The other thing is that it will enable the public and schools and teachers to access the projects that students have done at the regional level and at the national level without having to be physically in that space. So we're anticipating that for 21, we're probably still going to be looking at virtual events, but even when 22 comes around and we're back to physical events, we will still have a virtual presence.
We know that Youth Science Canada is providing great opportunities to kids. It's helping them to get inspired and develop their skills. But talking about the systemic racism in Canada, which is a hot topic these days, how do you ensure that racial injustice is not there in the organization and everyone gets equal opportunity?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think one of the things that we've done, and we see this with gender, with race, we're very well connected in the Indigenous community. The whole idea of STEM projects is to take an idea that you are passionate about. It's a question or a solution to a problem, and to pursue it based around your interests. And so, regardless of the background of the student, the gender of the student, where they live, whatever, everyone has interesting questions and interesting problems to pursue. And so it's a very, very open structure that allows everyone to participate. And then the other thing that we've done is to try to ensure that for students living, perhaps in lower access areas with fewer resources and that sort of thing, to try to ensure that we connect with them and enable them to participate as effectively. So a really good example is in the Indigenous communities, where we actually have seven of our 103 regional science fairs exclusively serve Indigenous communities, and so that enables those students to participate. Maybe it's at the provincial level in some cases, or the local level, to bring their projects together, to share them with elders and with others, and then to be selected to go on to the National Science Fair. And we're working hard to ensure that students, regardless of background, are able to participate at every one of our regional fairs, and we've committed to actually doing a complete survey of all our policies, our resources, and our processes to ensure that there is no systemic racism in there. Although we're sure we're going to find some, but we're committed to rooting it out and making sure that it's accessible to everyone.
All right, and as I mentioned earlier that COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in many changes. Recently, Health Canada released a report stating that pandemic has begun to take a toll on mental health crisis. And not just that, they also mentioned that a lot of youngsters will experience high level of stress. So how do you still engage and motivate youth, especially at this time when they're facing setbacks due to COVID-19?
Well, I think one of the things that project-based approaches to learning in general and working on STEM projects do is to kind of release the creativity and the ingenuity of students, and so if they have ideas. In many cases, students may be thinking that, well, the ideas that I have, nobody's interested in, or, I can't really do anything with them. And I'm stressed because I'm at home. I can't see my friends and can't interact with them. So, the ability to work on a project that you're passionate about, that you can spend time on, we actually think that, the shift to more home-based learning and so on will actually enable students to work on projects that are of more interest to them than perhaps they might otherwise attending school on a regular basis. In fact, students actually tell us that they in many cases learn more and are more passionate about the work that they do on their projects. So we think it actually has the potential to really engage students and to kind of raise their mental level so that they're happier about what they're working on and make use of the resources that they have at home and in their communities.
Absolutely. In the end, any advice for students wanting to get involved in science fair?
Sure. Well, the first thing is if you have a great question, or you think you have an interesting question, or you've seen a problem that you think you have a solution for, don't feel that, maybe I'm too young or maybe I can't do this or whatever. Absolutely go forward with it. Pursue it and look into it and get working on it. And then once you've got that idea and you've gotten started, go to visit youthscience.ca on the web. And if you want inspiration from existing projects, go to makeprojects.com/YSC to visit the online STEM fair, where there are 630 great projects to have a look at. And you can see what young people in grades 7 to 12 all across the country are doing.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Barlow, for joining PTC Punjabi. And once again, congratulations to Youth Science Canada for this big achievement. Thank you for your time.
Oh,
Stay safe.
thanks very much. It's been a pleasure.
Good luck. ਸੋ ਇਹ ਸੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਖਾਸ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਯੂਥ ਸਾਇੰਸ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਐਗਜ਼ੀਕਿਊਟਿਵ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟਰ ਰੈਨੀ ਬਾਰਲੋ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਕੋਈ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਂਝਾ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਲਿਖ ਕੇ ਭੇਜੋ feedback@ptcnetwork.com ਤੇ। ਮਿਲਾਂਗੇ ਅਗਲੇ ਹਫਤੇ। ਉਦੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦਿਓ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ ਅਤੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੀਆਂ ਤਾਜ਼ਾ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਲਈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ PTC ਨਿਊਜ਼।